Good evening, everybody. Is IT ready?
Yeah, good to go.
Yeah, great. Thanks everybody for attending tonight. This overview and scrutiny meeting on Thursday, the 1st of August 2024. I'm Deborah Platt and I'm chair of the meeting. When speaking, please do not obstruct your mouth to enable lip reading or the use of closed captions. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarms sound, please exit the way you came in. Please ensure that all mobile phones are switched off or to silent. And please could we have brief introductions again around the room, and then those, if anyone, on Teams. So shall we start with Teams just so we don't forget? Councillor Brown.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, my name is Councillor Michelle Brown, and apologies, I am on lunch tonight.
Good evening. Councillor Michelle Beach.
Councillor Ryan Towers.
Councillor Christine Hayden.
Councillor Sarah Ainsworth. Councillor Irina Marquardt.
Councillor Katie Wilkie.
Darren Cranshaw, Head of Democratic Services.
Councillor Arjun Singh. Councillor Kim Snape.
Hi, Councillor Pauline McGovern. Oh, that one works. Councillor Margaret France.
Hello, I'm Caroline Wolfenden, the Director of Change and Delivery.
Councillor Roy Lees, Vice Chair.
And Claire Gornall, Democratic Services Officer.
Oh, excellent. I've got apologies from Russ Green, and Councillor Brown's online now. So item 1 is declarations of any interests. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. Does anybody have any interest to declare right now? No? Great. Item 2, minutes of the last meeting held on Thursday the 14th of March 2024, pages 3 to 8 on your agenda pack. Are there any issues to raise from the minutes of the last meeting? Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Beach, Councillor Singh, and a show of hands. Ooh, thank you very much. So the recommendation is to agree the minutes as an accurate record. Item 3 is public questions. I have no public questions. Item 4 is the Executive Cabinet minutes, pages 9 to 26. The Executive Cabinet minutes of all the meetings held on the 21st of March, the 13th of June, the 11th of July are all attached to the agenda. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, so the recommendation is that the Executive Cabinet minutes be noted. Item 5 is notice of executive decisions, pages 27 to 66. The latest notice of executive decisions is available via the link on the agenda to the Council's website. Does anybody have any comments? Excellent, thank you, Councillor Snape.
Yeah, I was just, I mean, I know in the scheme of things, sometimes it can be perceived as being a small issue, but it does affect everybody. The weed control policy, I just wondered what the changes are going to be. Because whenever you go out speaking to residents, at some point weeds do come up.
I don't know. Okay, do you want that asking from this committee so we could get an answer for you and we'll get that circulated ASAP?
Yeah, I think it's forewarned. You know, if there's going to be a big change, it would be nice to let people know before it happens, or if there's, you know, or it might be just a minor change. It might be.
Yeah, it would be nice for councillors to know, just so as if anybody asks us, we at least don't look like I do tonight, and I don't know. Brilliant, excellent. I'll do that. Is that okay, Claire? Yeah, lovely. Any more questions? Okay, the recommendation is that the notice of executive decisions will be noted. Thank you. Item 6 is Scrutiny Reporting Back, Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report 2023 to 24, pages 67 to 86. The Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report 23-24 is attached to the agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the report? So the recommendation is that this report is noted. Okay. Item 7, Overview and Scrutiny Work Programme 2024-25. Following further consideration, I would like to propose that this item is deferred until after a second Overview and Scrutiny training session to include a more detailed scoping exercise to be arranged in September. If anyone has any ideas for the forthcoming work programme, you are welcome to mention them now or send them via the email ahead of the next training sessions. Are members happy to agree these arrangements? The reason is that at the training session that was arranged, I think it was in June, I was on holiday, I think you were away, and quite a lot of you were away. And unfortunately, it only had 3 people attending. So without having that training session, we're not pulling forward the ideas to actually put on the work programme and the types of ideas that we can pull forward to the work programme. So that's why we're asking for this, if that's okay for everybody. Yep. Got lots of nods there. So item 8 is the health scrutiny update, and I invite Councillor France to provide an update. Thanks, Councillor France, for attending.
Thank you very much, Chair and members of ONS. I've come to the conclusion that health scrutiny is a bit like a famine or a feast. So at your last overview and scrutiny meeting, there had been no health scrutiny meetings to report, and on this occasion I have 3. So you'll be glad to know I'm going to keep it relatively brief, or else we could be here all night. But they're largely based on adult social care issues as opposed to primarily health-related issues. But we'll take them one at a time if you'll just bear with me. So the 20th of March meeting. Now this was a workforce strategy update, looking at the workforce of Lancashire County Council social services, adult social services. It was delivered by Mark Howe, who is the Director of Quality and Improvement and the Principal Social Worker at LCC. So, as you can imagine, this was quite a comprehensive report, but the way that the members of the Health Scrutiny Committee approached it was to pick up certain points, notably that the average number of sick days by the social care workers was 7.5 per annum compared to 12.5 across Lancashire County Council generally. So quite a large increase in days off through sickness. And the causes of sickness reported were 3. Firstly, mental health issues, then respiratory illness, and then thirdly, musculoskeletal conditions. And the point was made that people are obviously vulnerable to respiratory illnesses and going into people's homes where people might be unwell. And the musculoskeletal injuries related to the moving and handling that they do as part of their daily work. The vacancy rate at adult social care is quite concerning, in particular with one speciality, and that is occupational therapy. Now, we all found it very shocking that 90% of LCC OT positions are vacant. So they are having to bring in agency staff to fill these roles. Now, I'm aware that occupational therapists are a bit like hen's teeth. They're very thin on the ground and very much in demand. But to have 90% of positions vacant seems to me that there must be something rather wrong with either the hours of working or the rate of pay or the way the recruitment process is taking place. But it certainly doesn't fill you full of confidence to how they're going about filling these posts. However, the largest number of vacancies in numerical terms is in residential care assistants. And we had a long discussion about, you know, rates of pay and the difficulties in this type of work where people are required very often to travel long distances, and often travelling time isn't taken into account in the amount of work that they're factored in to do. So it's sad to say that this is, to my mind, a very responsible role in dealing with the most vulnerable in society very often, and yet is poorly paid and is not always seen as a good career, shall we say. So that those problems together, you know, vacancies, difficulty recruiting staff, have produced agency costs in quarters 1 to 3 of the 22-23 year. Bearing in mind this was March when this meeting was held, so we were in the fourth quarter, as it were. At that time, the agency costs were over £6 million. So, you know, there's obviously a significant body of work needs doing to address that. So they talked about having a recruitment strategy and attraction policy, whatever that means, to try to attract people into Lancashire County Council social care positions. And then we went on to discuss something called the NHS One Workforce approach. And there is apparently a specific team at the Lancashire Place who are focused on partnership working, and the idea being to have a work passport, so to enable staff to move across different areas and potentially even different sites, for instance, between Chorley or South Ribble. I don't know whether that would work with Blackburn, considering that's a separate, they're not in the same, they are part of Lancashire and South Cumbria ICP, but they are not within Lancashire County Council itself per se. So, yeah, that was a good and long discussion about all the woes of facing Lancashire County Council, and to my mind there don't seem to be any quick fixes to any of those. So on that depressing note, we'll move on to the meeting of the 8th of May. Now this was a presentation called Living Better Lives in Lancashire, and once again it was Mark Howe, again, Director of Quality and Improvement and the Principal Social Worker at Lancashire County Council, so he got a grilling again, I'm afraid. So he tried to present us with a different way of working. So, to be 3 different stages of assessment: promoting independence, regaining independence and making safe, and then levering community resources, which sounds a bit like getting in the workforce, people to do the workforce jobs that aren't paid, to my mind. That's engage in the voluntary service, I would imagine. So the principle is to have trained customer access service to triage calls coming in for adult social care, and then signpost on, if needed, to the wellbeing and early support team. So the triage service could be by telephone or virtual assessment, by access through community hubs, or good old-fashioned face-to-face visits. And this team, the customer access service, to act as a front door to all of adult social care community teams. So adult social care, therefore, in partnership with the NHS, with VCFS and also with the independent sector, to together provide a short-term support service, as they call it, which is aimed at to avoid hospital or care home admission in a crisis situation, to enable people to remain safely within their own home, and to support timely hospital discharge. So all of these things seem to be very sensible, but time will tell whether they actually materialise. It seems like it's a lot of talking and not a lot of action to me, but that's been my concept of it. Now, the final meeting, I must admit I wasn't able to attend this. I was on annual leave, and this took place on the 26th of June, when I was happily in my tent in the Isle of Wight. So, Councillor Michelle Beach attended on my behalf, but in actual fact, looking at the papers from this, it was largely a meeting to set the workforce for the following year ahead. So I don't think there were the same sort of substantive items on there as we'd had in the previous meetings, and it was a discussion really about to discuss meeting plans and agreed outcomes for the session and the work plan of the 24-25 year So I believe there were PowerPoint presentations from Kevin Lavery, Chief Executive of the ICB, from the Cabinet Member Graham Gooch, and also from Michael Green, who is the Cabinet Member of Health and Wellbeing. But I'm afraid I don't have any more information about those, and the papers and minutes are as yet not uploaded onto the internet for me to look at them. So thank you very much, and happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Councillor Towers.
Thanks. It's a really comprehensive report. I was on a picket line this week with the social care support officers in Lancashire, and speaking to them, it was pretty devastating. They didn't want to be there. They talked about their extremely high caseload, and then also another contributing factor to the very difficult decision they've had to take is that neighbouring councils pay higher than Lancashire County Council, and so a massive contribution to why they leave is that the casework is extremely high and they're paid significantly less. So they move to Bolton Council, to Wigan Council, to Manchester, and that's a key kind of stopping point for them with regards to being able to retain, still the issue with recruitment, but also retaining the current staff. And it has a knock-on effect to then the social workers, because the cases that they're not picking up are having to go to social workers. So that has an impact on their sickness leave and stress and mental health. Was there anything in the meetings around levelling up their pay with other councils with regards to the pay bandings?
Yeah, thanks. From memory, I do remember myself saying that I felt it was very unfortunate that the type of work that they do and the responsibility they carry isn't valued more highly by society as a whole, and that this type of work is not seen as a good career, but is often something that people do as a stopgap or what have you. And I think this is perhaps a national issue, but in terms of, I wasn't aware that other councils paid more. And I think if you look at that, it's a prime example of how, in order to save money by paying less, you actually end up spending a lot more money, because people then need a lot more care by the time they actually get to services. And as you said, you know, more problems appear later on and probably harder to solve. So yeah, it's a thorny one, that one, I think. I'm afraid Lancashire County Council, as you're aware, are not in a good place financially, and so the prospect of any additional increase in pay seems unlikely. Thank you.
Councillor McGovern.
You'll have to advise me here, because I found everything that you said really interesting. And maybe there was a report and I just didn't catch it. Was there a report we were looking at? Because I was going to, or was it a verbal report?
So there wasn't a written report.
Yeah. So,
but if you wish, I can forward one to you.
I would love you to do that, and I would actually say that you've got loads of interesting stuff, and I don't know if within scrutiny, I would like, maybe it's not appropriate, no doubt other people that are more experienced can advise me. I would love to scrutinise it, and there's simple things like, in your first meeting, when you were talking about staff illnesses, I wasn't clear whether you were talking about incidences, say between respiratory illnesses and musculoskeletal conditions, or whether you were talking about individual members of staff. And that's quite a crucial point in terms of what we're looking at, because morbidities are multiple, whatever the word is. So that would, things like that would inform me a lot about the scale of the problem. That, and I certainly would be very, very interested. So I certainly would like it. And if that's the kind of thing that we do scrutinise here, I would like, in the future, the reports to be in written form, because it's an area I'm very interested in.
If I can just come back on that, Pauline, thank you. just like to say to you that the papers do usually run into the hundreds for this meeting. I'm more than happy to suggest that you look at the papers yourself, which will give you all the detail that you need. Or what you may find simpler is actually to watch the live stream, because it is recorded and it is available to watch. For anyone can watch that on the Lancashire County Council website under the Health and Adult Services Scrutiny tab.
I would just say that in terms of dealing with your area, in terms of scrutiny, would it at all be possible to have a summary report? Because it's quite clear that you give me or anybody else 100 pages and it's too much to deal with. But if you had a few tables which illustrate, which not just illustrated, but you've talked about workforce, it doesn't seem to me that within the 3 meetings you're talking about, that's impossible to summarise. And it doesn't seem to me that the amount of data is that completely enormous. So is that at all feasible to actually get that committee to make a summary report that we can look at? Only a thought.
I think the best thing I can suggest, Pauline, is go onto your iPad and onto the, what's the document processor called these days? It keeps changing its name, doesn't it? Mogov. Go onto Mogov and you can log into the Lancashire public site and all the papers are on there. So all the documents are on there, including what they presented, and they will usually start off with a summary. But don't forget, these summaries can be, could be quite a lengthy document themselves.
I'm always looking for data which is in a clear and simple form. And all this kind of data is possible to present. I'm just saying ideally, it's possible to present the key findings. You know as a doctor, you know really, don't you?
I guess the comeback to that one is the relevant points to one person are different to another person. Yeah. For instance, you might like to look at, you know, the absenteeism. How does that compare in the last 5 years? How does that compare with another borough? How does that compare with national figures? Do you see what I mean? No. So what is your interest may not be everyone else's interest, but I would suggest that there are hundreds of pages of information behind these reports. Feel free to look at them on the ModGov Lancashire site, and they're all there to, if you wish to do so. But the meetings are about 2.5 hours long if you wish to watch a live recording.
Thanks very much, Councillor France. Councillor France attends these meetings, all of these meetings, on our behalf, really, and summarises what she feels is important to us. Obviously, there's loads of back reading that you can do, and enjoy to your heart's content there. I'm sure Margaret will send you any links that you might want. So, you know, if you want to get more involved, obviously read around it. Thanks, Margaret, for going. That's Councillor France, sorry. Right, so item 9 is reports from the Task and Finish group. We've got an update on the Suicide, Bereavement and Prevention Task Group. The update is from the Vice Chair, Councillor Singh. Thank you, Councillor.
So the Suicide, Bereavement and Prevention Task Group held its first meeting on the 22nd of May 2024, at which members carried out a scoping exercise for this piece of work and received a presentation on the work of the council in terms of social prescribing, referral, signposting, its work with the partners, including Lancashire Mind and St Lawrence's Church, on the forthcoming events such as World Suicide Prevention event in September. We then met on the 19th of June and received background data and evidence to consider, such as follows. So real-time surveillance suspected suicide data from Public Health LCC, Office for Health Improvement and Disparity Suicide and Self-Harm data. We also considered additional information containing sensitive data and hence was held in a private session. The next meeting on the 23rd of July, prior to the formal meeting, the task group met with members of a suicide bereavement support group, Beside You in Bereavement, BYIB. Guests related their personal experiences with suicide, bereavement, and shared what they thought could be improved, such as having contact from someone who could offer support within 24 hours. At the formal meeting, the task group heard from Lancashire Mind on what can be offered in terms of the Orange Button Pledge and and provision of self-harm kits and free e-learning. Members also heard from LCC Public Health and discussed more localised data in a private session. The next steps are to hold another meeting on the 20th of August. Angela Allen from Bags of Strife will be attending, and we are hoping Andy's Man Club will attend too. The task group will also speak to local police on a date to be arranged. This scrutiny review has been progressing very well and aims to be completed by the end of September. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks Councillor Singh. I don't know whether anybody have any questions. Obviously they're not finished, but and some of you may be on it, but no questions. Lovely. Okay, so item 10, any other business? I just wanted to bring ourselves back to item 7, the work programme. We need to set up this training, and we did have earlier today we had at least 5 dates. Now we're down to 1. So 1 date. The 3rd of September. I've already told you. So, if you could check your diaries, I need as many of you as possible. Now, I know 3 of you have been on it, but it may well be worth your while to come on it again, as there's going to be more members there. So, if not, pop it in your diary now. Yeah. Darren?
Chair, can I just check on what the start time would be of preference to everybody? We've got 5 o'clock, sometimes it's 5:30, sometimes it's 6. We're happy to suit times that members would prefer.
Shout out, yeah.
I'd be better with 6 because I've got to get back from Preston to Chorley. That'll be easier for me.
So what's a good time? Sorry? 6. About 6. Is 6 okay with everybody else for getting back from work? And so on the 3rd of September, is 6 o'clock okay for your diaries? How long will it be? How long? A couple of hours. Yeah? And that'll be brilliant if we can all pop it in our diaries now, and then we have no excuse for not being there, have we? Lovely. So any other business? I've got no other business agreed, so I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.